Well, good afternoon, everyone. So I think we have, I think, a lot of people joining from different locations, I believe. So, all right. So, hi, my name is Kaushik. So I'm gonna today briefly talk about the common pitfalls to avoid to be a product manager. So my idea is that to go through my personal experience of being a product manager. I think maybe some of you who are in the audience are a product manager, and probably they already know that. I think as a life of a product manager, it's very rewarding in the sense that you get to learn a lot of things in everyday basis. And I must confess that I have been the guilty of making a lot of mistakes, learning continuously, and I try to adapt. And today I'm going to share with some of my learnings and the things that I did mistakes, and I would like to share so that someone, my fellow product managers, could avoid making the same mistake. And I would request that let's not be like a one-to-one, like me telling, speaking for the whole time. I would ask you, feel free to, share any questions, your experience, your thoughts, because at the end of the session, I would like to leave with also learning something new from all of you. So let's not be just a monologue from my side. All right. So about myself. Uh, So I'm originally from India, so from the city Calcutta. But however, I had the opportunity to work for the past 11 years in different countries like Mexico, Finland, UK, and right now I'm in Portugal. So that gave me a lot of opportunity to work in a multicultural and multinational environment. That gave me this perspective of like respect different perspective, and be collaborative to empathetic to other ideas and other cultures. uh, I started my career as a programmer, as a developer, but along the way I worked in a different many different roles like tech lead, service manager, innovation specialist, business development, and I had the opportunity to work in different sectors like financial services, manufacturing, retail, e-commerce, and space. So that's just a fun fact about me that I worked in the space domain for some time. So I have a background in information technology. I hold a degree in business from the Lisbon MBA and MIT Sloan. Right now, I am working as a product manager within CI&T. I joined 6 months back, and now I'm working as a product manager. However, my entire team is based in Brazil, so which is very interesting and completely different experience for me because I actually helped to develop or to build this team, and this is, I think, a new age where my product team is in a place that I never met with them. So new time and new way of working for sure. So what I do right now at CI&T is I'm working in the digital marketing area. So I'm responsible for developing one of the best martech product for one of the largest brewery in the world. About myself, apart from my work, I really care about mental health and climate change. So that's why you probably would have seen my interest in space. But that's about me. But when it comes to product management, this is something I learned through my experience that this is not about me. What does it mean here? I think we get into this spiral of product ownership where we think that I become sometimes the focus of the product. It means that it's the me who is developing the features, coming with the feature strategy. But at the end of the day, is not me who is going to use the product, is the customer who is going to use the product. It might appear that that the product that I'm developing, for example, on based on mobile, it's very easy to use. I mean, I can use it in very easily, but that's not the point, because that is it is easy for you, because for me, because I have been using on a daily basis. But uh, it's quite difficult for a new customer or someone who is new to work on. So I think that's and also I think it's quite important as well that we at a very early on during the product development phase, that we try to understand the users. Although this is, I mean, if you start a product manager, if you start a conversation with product manager, the first thing they would say, talk to the users. So I think this is not something new, but although we always make these mistakes and get into this mode of of I mean, thinking me as the customer sometimes. So I think this is a mistake I did several times. I try to avoid that, and this requires a lot of practice, and it's something that I'm still trying to improve. The other thing that I find important is that uh, a great product is usually a result of a healthy collaboration. So it means that you are not the hero. So I think this is, I call it the hero syndrome. So you are not the one who is going to come up with all the solutions. You're not the one who will be finding the best strategy. It's not always your idea, because you have to work as a team, and the team is one who will actually is responsible for the product. You, as a product manager, you are more like a, in my view, an orchestrator, and you have to guide the team to develop the product. And there are a few instances I think I had trouble in the past, and which I try to improve, which is that when, as a product manager, I came up with a new idea about new feature, new improvement, I took it as more important because it became my idea and I need to promote it because it's something I came up with, so it needs to be there on the product. So that's the kind of attitude I have found in the past to be much more destructive than be productive. And we also need to accept the fact that we might be working with people who are way smarter than you. So your development team, your stakeholders, so you have to listen to everyone. It's not that since you're the product manager, you own the whole process. So that's the main message here, is that uh, although I am the owner of the product, but doesn't mean I would be the one who's making the decisions. The other point, which is that about the solution. So there is many aspects here. So for me, or probably most of the product managers have a background in technology. They have probably worked with solutions, with the development, and that are I mean, in general, an engineering mindset, and that's so we always try to fall back to this engineering mindset, that we always see a problem and we try to solve it. And I think this is also a very difficult practice I did, to not to solutionize all the problems that I encounter. Rather, I let the team to come up with the solution. Because as a product manager, I believe my role is, or our role is to understand the why, understand the the deeper philosophy of the problem, why we have to develop it, what is the purpose, what is the value. And our role is to trigger these ideas or this vision to the team and to everyone, and let the team to come up with the solutions. Because the once you have a solution in mind, I believe I will be much more biased towards the solution, and I will not be very open to other solution. It's just because, again, coming to the point, is sometimes is I came up with the solution, so it's the best solution. So ideally, we should stay away from the solution, but you can be part of it. I mean, you can be observant. We can be take part in the discussion of the problem, how we are creating the solution, but we should rather give this autonomy to our product team to actually develop the solution and make a wise decision, make an informed decision about which solution is the best. I mean, you will have, I think, for me, if I'm as a product manager, I have a better understanding of the business, so I would make that wise decision. But I think that's the main message that I wanted to pass here. Let me go to the next slide here. So, value versus product feature. In the world of product management, I think most of you who are listening to me right now, they are very much aware of this dichotomy of value versus product, and this is easier to explain than to practice on a daily basis. So, what's value and what's a feature? So, this is my perspective. So, value is what benefit we create for our customers, the product for whom we are developing. What are the problems that we are trying to solve for the customers? These are more like a qualitative aspects of the product, the perceived value, the emotional aspect of it. However, feature is much more functional and technical add-ons that we include in a product. I think it also comes to the culture where we always try to develop a product roadmap or the product based on what are our features, what are our new functionalities that we will develop. But behind every feature, there is a value, there is a reasoning, there is a philosophy, and I think this is where sometimes I have also been guilty of that, to be very focused on feature rather than value. And in fact, bringing new features or increasing X number of features doesn't mean that I'm actually creating value for our customers. So I think this requires a deep understanding of our product, what we are developing, why we are developing, and have this understanding of the value. But by saying that, it doesn't mean we should always ignore features. We need to always have to find a balance. However, this is something I personally like, that we should never ignore inspiring features, the wow factors, that the emotional connection that you make with a small change in the color or the fonts, or a minor change that will create a major wow impression of the product. We should not be ignoring that. So what I mean to say is that when we have values and the features, you always have to find a balance. I mean, at the last, you don't want to develop a product which is boring. It has to be very inspiring and very attractive for our customer. Well, I think I can talk about the balance as a completely new topic about product, but I think, well, that's not the right time here. The other point I would like to talk about is developing product right and right product. I'm sure you probably have heard about this n number of times everywhere when you talk about product management. So this is not something new that I'm bringing. My perspective here is again about balance. This is something also very related to the culture, the product culture that you have within your team, within the company, because some cases we may be migrating from a culture of project based to a product based. So we borrow some of the way of working, and that might not be very optimal for a product culture. So when we say developing a right product, in my opinion, it's a overemphasis. I'm not saying it's not important. It's overemphasis on process, on the way we are executing with an impressive documentation, with the processes, with a very high quality process implemented, completion within budget, within timeline. All these are important. I'm not denying the fact that these are not important. But I think it's crucial as well that we need to find a balance. So are these processes that I have in place is going to help me to deliver value for my customer? For example, uh, I usually it was me at the beginning of my career. I really obsessed about tools. Hey, let's use Miro, let's use Mural, let's use that tool, let's use that tool. It will look amazing. This kind of documentation, but at one point I realized I was wasting more time to uh, to do my work rather than actually creating value. Um, we still need tools. We still need visual means of presenting our ideas and vision, but that should not be the focus. Should be the focus of what value we are creating. I mean, I can give an example right now. I found that Google Spreadsheet is what solves all my problems. So I completely rely on some simple tools which are very easy to use, and that's good enough for me. And also in process wise, at the beginning, I used to be thinking like I should be writing the best user stories ever. It should be the best detailed, and it was like a challenge for me to write a story that that have all the information. But I realized that's not the point, because I should be more focused on other aspects than writing the best story. So my approach has always been now, let's create what is bare minimum required, and I take it from there. Um, and what is developing right product would be the one where I'm focused on the value, which I just spoke on my previous slide. Um, and developing right product is much more focused on value. I always ask this question to myself, like, if we complete a product development within budget, within time, does it mean that I actually developed the product I initially planned to develop? Probably not. But this is there is no right or wrong answer. So for me, it's more about balance. It's to find the right balance, and this is where it's. I think the experience of working will come into play, which I'm still learning where to find the balance of how much process is important and how much value creation. So how can I have this together such a way that ultimately we're creating value for the customer. So so that's the main takeaway message from here. Uh, so as I told you, so when I was preparing this presentation, I felt like I can literally talk about balance for product management as a separate topic, maybe the next time. The other point I would like to talk about is the project manager. It might I think there is a long debate in the tech world, and probably I have participated in some of those discussions. What's the value of project manager in a product team? I have a different perspective. I in my view, project manager is your ally, is your friend, is your collaborator in a product development team. uh, is because a project manager, when he's working with me, they help me with all my day-to-day operations, the communication, risk management. So there are some aspects of the work that is much more operational is done on a regular basis. So I think that if you have a project manager, they, he or she can actually help you with that. And I find this kind of symbiotic relationship is very useful and very productive. However, you need to be careful not to turn your product development to be driven by a project management methodology. So that's where again comes the balance. So what the way I'm working now is a very well defined structure, roles and responsibilities, and very well understanding of how we will work. And this way, I'm able to fulfill my role as a product manager, and also I get all the support I need from a project manager. But also, this also depends on the size of the team, the complexity of the project. So probably for a very small team, may not be necessary, but I think for a larger team, for a bigger scope or the complexity probably will benefit from a project manager. But as a project manager, you should avoid to become a project manager. And this also comes with a bit of background because maybe some of us, including me, I have worked earlier as a project manager. So my mind is kind of tuned to become a project manager and start thinking this way. So this approach is very risky, and you would not probably be able to reap all the benefits that you wanted as a product manager. So you should never try to fall into this pitfall of like work as a product manager, project manager, vice versa, changing your hats very frequently. This is not very productive, and I mean at the end you don't want to be the one who is assigning tasks to the team. Don't try to become a taskmaster. Your stories or the way you are writing the backlog, your features, it should not be based on a task, and I think that's where the project management mindset comes into play. This is something I also struggled. I'm still trying to make this differentiation, and this is for me the work in progress. The next point about the product designer. During my experience so far, I think this is the area where I actually have learned the most. Also, had the most difficulty. The relationship with a product manager and a product designer is very unique, and it requires a lot of nurturing and also a lot of attention to be given, because at the end your product designer is your strongest ally, and is your support, just like a project manager, but in a different aspect from your vision. So my interactions with product designers at the beginning were difficult, I must confess, and this is why I'm trying to share what I have learned. I understood the way of working, and also understood the how a designing of a product actually works. So there are three important points that I understood. I'd like to share with you is that it's very important that when we have our brainstorming discussions with product designer, we should not restrict ourselves with a short-term vision. So there is always this contradictory force of short-term and long-term vision in the strategies. So working with product designer, I understood that it's very difficult to work with, and also probably doesn't make sense for me to work in an incremental way, to start something immediate to grow something bigger, but rather to have the opposite, which is to have a bigger vision, to discuss this strategy, the long-term vision with the product designer, and add layers on top of that to solidify that vision into a reality, and then probably work on a certain area that you will be working, for example, the next release, the MVP. So this is a different way of working. So it means that as a product manager, I should be very comfortable with the vision that I have in my mind, and be able to share this vision with a designer, because a designer needs to understand all the aspects of the product manager of the product they're developing, the things that we're going to work now, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year. Because without that, it's very difficult to design a very compelling, a very sustainable product in terms of the design. So I think this is the biggest lesson that I have learned, and this is how I'm interacting with the designers right now. And the other point is to create a psychologically safe environment for the designer, because if the designer is the one, you would be talking about completely outlandish ideas, about out-of-box processes, tools, or way of thinking or doing work. So as a product manager, needs to be very comfortable with a lot of uncertainties with that, with the whole process of brainstorming, with the ideation, and I need to give this environment to the designer so that they feel uh, free to express their ideas, criticize, and not be restricted to narrow thoughts or immediate satisfaction, gratification, and then not thinking long term. Um, this requires a lot of practice, and I believe this is something I personally developed by learning about and being with the product designer, learning about the design process, and to improve how my interactions will be. And last not the least is that when it comes to design, uh, it's important to inspire rather than dictate. So what I mean is that I should not be the one, for example, telling the designer, "Hey, can you design this screen with these boxes here and there?" I think this is a wrong approach. The right approach that would be that I give the vision, I give the purpose, why we are developing this product in a mobile, for example. What is our objective? What is our goal? And then I have to trust my designer to come up with a solution and then discuss. This also goes in line with what I spoke about earlier about the solution. So design solution should not come from me. I should rather be give the direction and the push, the trigger, the motivation, and is a designer who should have the freedom or the autonomy to come with design and be discussed. So I think this is as I told, this is one of the biggest learnings I have, and I'm still improving on that. So I would like to hear as well from you how you work. Apart from that, some useful tips that I have from my personal experience, which is planning. So I think this comes with a bit of background in project management, where excessive planning with extraordinary graphs, detailed planning, and then later I understood the plans always keep changing. So I need to find a balance and be very practical with the way I'm organizing my planning, my product roadmap. So, or even, I mean, the whole thing about the product. So it's all about again the balance. I need to strike a balance of how much should I dedicate my time on planning rather thinking the future or solving other aspects of the product. The other point is that there are the next 2 points are very much related. Be available to the team and be aware of the capacity of the team. This is something I have been. This is something I currently lack, which I'm trying to improve, which is that you don't want to create information asymmetry within your team, within the team members, because you may be very close to business. You're trying to understand the strategy, but and I might have this assumption that the information that I have is also the same information the team also possesses, and this is wrong because the team or the product team is probably be more focused on doing immediate goals, immediate tasks, but they might not have that full vision. So this has been my top priority right now, to work with the team, to dedicate more time with the team, uh, and to share the vision constantly, the things that are changing, and also to align with the objectives and create a shared vision of the product. Because at the end of the day, you want to develop a self-organizing team, which is only possible uh, if I'm able to share my vision clearly to the team. And once you are very close to the team, you become aware of the capacity of the team, because if you are very much detached while you're developing the roadmap, you might be very optimistic. You try to be very over promise to your stakeholders, to your customers, but which ultimately you probably not be able to deliver. So I think it's very important uh, to be close to the team, understand the capacity, what is possible, feasible, and again, I will use the same term, find and strike a balance of developing your plan. Uh, I mean, feel free to share any questions or any comments that you have. I mean, I don't want again to be a complete just a 101, but I will continue. If you have any questions, feel free to share. The other point is that learn to say no. So this is the most difficult thing. It's still, I think this aspects of it I still have never completely understood. The art of saying no. Uh, but this is very important. Otherwise, you will become uh, you 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 will be overburdened with a lot of requests, a lot of features that they needs to be developed, and you probably be completely lost. And I think when I say no, doesn't mean that someone is asking for a new feature. Completely say no. This cannot be. I cannot do it, but rather to explain why it cannot be done. And this requires again a lot of practice, a lot of understanding of the current situation, understanding of the velocity of the team, the aspects of the product, and probably at the beginning of your career or at the beginning of a new product team, it might be very difficult to do that. But I think when you have solidified your position, you have better understanding. I think it becomes so much more easier when you know from your experience this cannot be feasible. So you propose alternatives or push to the next release. So this is very important to have a healthy progress of your product development. Next one. Well, I think I'm coming close to my presentation here. So some of the daily routines I have found useful. These are something very important for me, and I thought I would share with all of you, how I find it very useful. So although I know probably some of you would have come to this session thinking about learning a lot of things about product management, I would probably say much more, describe some other aspects of um, of way of working. Might not be applicable. I mean, it's not only applicable for as a product manager, but for every aspect of work. So first thing is like about the deep work. We are I see myself and also all my colleagues and also all of you. We are part of the knowledge workforce. So our main resource that we use is our attention, our capacity, our cognitive capacity. And although it's becoming more and more important, I think at the same time we are having less opportunities to have much more deeper cognitive work. And this is something I personally struggled for a long time, and it gave me a lot of dissatisfaction. And I looked for a way to improve. I read different literature, several books, and in terms of practical way, right now what I do, I set a few hours of my day at the beginning of the day or towards the end, depends on which is you are comfortable for a deep work. So what do we mean by deep work? Probably this is the term most of you have heard in the industry right now. The deep work for me, or what the definition is, something that a period of time that you work without any interruption, without any distraction, and that pushes your cognitive ability to a very high standard, and you create tremendous value, and you create uh, great work, and that's something cannot be replicable. And for me, this is a very important aspect of my day. I dedicate few hours in a day for this, and I find most of my most difficult thinking process done at this time. And to be honest, uh, I found it very useful, although I spent few hours for this deep work, but the benefit that I get is much more higher, and it's far-reaching. And in order to do that, I mean, one thing really helped, which is working at CI&T, because I have the flexibility to manage my hours. So uh, I allocate some time so that that is convenient for me. And also, I would suggest that also, if you want to dedicate some time for this kind of work without any disruption, you can align with your team, with other members, so that they know that this is the time they cannot reach you. So you know how to handle that. However, I find it very useful for me. And in relation to that, there is another thing which is I find it useful. This is also a recommendation. It's about avoiding a hyperactive hive mind work. If you read this book from this author Cal Newport, uh, it's he mentioned about this book. So what does it mean is that on our daily life, and probably you all have experienced, is that we there are some moments in a day that we keep sending messages on a Slack or other channels, and becomes like a hive, which is like a lot of hyperactivity going on with a lot of unscheduled ad hoc messages, and you participate in that communication. And as the time goes by, you will see that you are probably not creating great like value, but you are messaging a lot of things and switching your work from one to another. So what I mean to say is that what I found useful is that to find some time for a deep work, to avoid as much as this kind of unscheduled communications, and rather to have a time allocated and get things done. I mean, start something and finish. But as I told you, this is not just for product manager. It could be applicable to anyone who is working. The last thing is about mindfulness. Well, you didn't expect to talk about mindfulness during product management session, but at the end, as I told you, so our work is much more cognitive. So we need to be present. We need to be understanding ourselves and also others. And this is also I have this definition in mind for me, is that a product manager is someone who has two types of customers. One is the customers for whom you are developing the product. The other one is your team who is actually developing the product. So without mindfulness and without understanding of what they want, how they feel, what's their motive, I think it will be quite difficult to develop a very good and great product. So I think mindfulness is something it really helps. It's not something I'm able to achieve in a few days. This is a long-term, lifelong process. So I would suggest that if you could practice, I think you will gain a lot of benefits out of it. With that, I believe I'm done.